All right, so this will be a feedback slash critique for Rotten. It's a bit unclear if Rotten or Max is requesting feedback. Max is, or Rotten is the one that uploaded it and said feedback appreciated, so I'm just gonna go with Rotten for now. You guys probably don't know me. Probably. I go by Shazam on the Discords. I am by no means a Tekken professional. I'm just someone who plays a lot of Tekken, watches a lot of Tekken, enjoys Tekken, right? And I'm trying to provide feedback in the sense of, hey, based on all my experiences watching, fighting, playing a little bit of Bryan, this is what I think, right? This is what I see. I'm by no means a Bryan expert, so that's, take it with a grain of salt. I take everything with a grain of salt, really. So I'm not going to really speak too much on like combos and stuff like that. But based on some basic understanding of Bryan, here's where I think you could be doing a bit more, right? Like maximizing your potential. At the end of the day, it's really just, hey, I watched 2 minutes of this gameplay. Here's what I thought. It's not necessarily a damning indictment of your play or anything, right? It's just, hey, from one passionate Tekken nerd to someone asking for advice, here's what I see. Here's some food for thought. Consider it. Take it as you will, right? It is by no means gospel. With that being said, there are some feedback I do have for just kind of, hey, when you're asking for feedback, I'm not sure. This is why I'm confused if you're asking for feedback or if Max is. If you're asking for feedback, I would post up losses more. This entire set's just kind of you running circles around Max, and not it's not impossible to give feedback, but it's a bit more difficult, right? It just shows that you're kind of just dominating a lot of the set, but it's whatever. Also, if you can, try and have your feedback showcase the inputs. That'll help give people more insight into what was going on through your mind at specific points. Were you mashing? What were you pressing? What was your goal? Etc. Etc. It's not mandatory, right? I don't think you need to like delete this VOD and re-upload it. But for future sets where you're asking for feedback from someone, I'd recommend having the inputs in there. It can be kind of obscuring, but I think the benefit of being able to see what were you doing in that match or what your opponent was doing is too good. It's too good to give up. So, anyway, let's just get right into it. Sorry, a little bit under the weather. Still recovering from a cough or sinuses or something. I don't want to. No. Okay, so did he tackle? He did. I guess something to consider on these like weird stages, right, is instead of trying to it's tough, right? This is just one of those weird stages. But instead of trying to, fully try and capitalize and maximize on your wall combo, my opinion here is that just knowing how this stage is, obviously from an outside perspective, it's a lot easier to say than in the heat of the moment, right? Take it with a caveat or whatever. But your goal here should be first confirming where the hit was, and before immediately committing to, because this stage gets weird. These octagon stages are always weird with their wall splats. Before committing to a wall combo, instead focus on repositioning yourself. So do a sidestep right here and make yourself more in line with the wall and force Max into a more awkward position at the wall. Right. So that way you have a more like dominant position here. Overcommitting to the wall combo and just kind of running in like that, it's heat of the moment. It's not a damning thing, right? It's really more so just, I think you could have maintained a better stage position, which matters more, especially given how oppressive Bryan can be at the wall, right? And now, like, look at where it got you, right? And so that's something to consider, is just stage awareness, especially on these like fucked up stages. Is Max is not really taking advantage of it, right? He's not really putting you too much pressure in the wall. But against anybody else, is this really the position you want to be in, playing Bryan with your back against the wall, right? It's, again, it's not like, it's just something I'm thinking like, hey, this could be better. This I don't know how much of this is because you guys have been playing for a while and you're just kind of, you've made some adjustments or specific adaptations to Max, or vice versa, right? But this seems to be just kind of like a, I don't know, it's kind of like a Bryan thing. It isn't really. So you'll do forward, forward, four, forward, forward, four again. No, it just whiffed that one time, right? And then you, I guess you're trying to challenge with the jab and move out of the way. It just, what was the reasoning behind the forward, forward, four? You were anticipating him coming in, but it feels like if you're going to do a keep out move, why would you not just do 3+4, right? Has Max really shown that he's going to be sidestepping your 3+4s throughout the set? Is that something that you really need to be doing? I feel like with how awkward the range for forward, forward, four can be, I think you are better off doing 3+4 for keep out instead, and then switching to forward, forward, four when you have a better range and better idea of like, yes, they are going to step, and I want to make sure they don't step my 3+4. It feels like a lot of your playstyle is you throw out like the power move, but you don't have a foundation to back it up. What do I mean by this? In your sets, in your matches, you use a lot of forward 3, and it's a good move. It's fast, counter hit launcher, and it's 0 on block, which I just learned today, which is insane. But it's like, okay, so you use a lot of forward 3, but then what do you do with it? Or more importantly, why do you think Max would get counter hit by it? Later on in the set, you do like a couple forward dashes into the forward 3, and then because Max is getting unnerved by your forward dashing, he presses into it. That's understandable. But a lot of it is just, I see a lot of big commitment moves from your side, from both players really, without any sort of build up to it, right? If you're going to use a counter hit launcher, first consider, why is your opponent going to press? What is the reasoning here? Against Max, because he's kind of overeager on challenging you and pressing offense, it's easy to say that, like, okay, yeah, he's going to press because it's just his play style. But I feel like you're not building up enough with your poking. There's not enough jabs, there's not enough down back 3, there's not enough down 4 to further create that frustration. When you're poking someone, especially a player like Max, where if they get disrupted a lot by jabs, by down back 4 or down back 3, down 4, right? All of those quick, annoying moves, they'll be forced to go for, their gut instinct will be to retaliate with bigger commitment moves or just get off me moves or stuff like that, right? Do you see what I'm trying to get at? The point being, utilizing more jabs, down 4, down back 3, to create frustration within Max so that he lashes out more, so that way your counter hits will actually counter hit stuff, and or your whiff punishment will be able to come into play. I feel like whiff punishment is just not something I'm seeing a lot of throughout this entire set. It comes up maybe once in a while, but I feel like you can be doing a lot more by focusing more on poking as opposed to trying to cash out with the counter hit button or trying to go big with the counter hit button or whatever, and then forcing Max to get frustrated with your poking and lashing out, and then based on what he lashes out with, you whiff punish, right? Like right here, this jab, right? Okay, so you jab and then immediately go for movement, which is like fine. No, actually no, that's fine because you're repositioning yourself into a better stage, into a better wall position. But this is where it doesn't get fine, right? Why are you doing sidestep right? What exactly has he done that wants you to do sidestep right? Like, what is the reasoning here? Why not continue to sidestep left until you are given a reason to otherwise and focus on trying to keep a more advantageous position, right? Focus more on not letting Max all of a sudden have this big stage to his back to run away from you. Is he necessarily going to run away? No, right? He's very aggressive. He doesn't, and you have the life lead, right? Like it's not likely, but you don't want to be forced into a position where if he pokes you and gets, because this life lead isn't a lot, right? So if he pokes you once, all of a sudden you're maybe tied up, or now you're slightly behind, and instead of his back being to the wall, now all of a sudden he has the entire stage to just kind of run back, right? And Bryan's a great character, but I don't think many people would say he has great approach, right? But again, just my 2 cents. Continue. Does Bryan not have a punish for wall standing one? Does like jet up or not reach? I'm not sure, but I feel like with your back to the wall, you should have been able to reach. Like, see here, really good dominant positioning. Lock him down with the jabs. I feel here, right before you go for the big, whatever the knee press is. I don't know the input. I don't know the frame data. Why not go for hatchet kick? Why not go for back one here, right? First and foremost, like you've kind of locked him down with the jabs. He's on the back foot. He's kind of scared of press buttons because your faster jab is getting him out. So what can you expect, right? If you're jabbing, what can he do that would beat your jab? He can do the full crouch as a down forward four, the big like almost donkey kick thing that Bryan can do from full crouch. He can maybe do orbital, right? But he can also do like a low, like down back three or snake edge, right? And that's when you want to orbital. I think you can be doing more by pivoting into one of two directions first. First is that if he's shown throughout the match that he'll do something to challenge the jabs, do whatever your answer is to that. But first and foremost is I think throughout this entire set, you can stand to gain a lot more by being just greedier, right? Bryan, in my opinion, and from what I see and hear from a lot of other people, it's a character of extremes, right? You're either extremely defensive and you're just all in on that defense, the punishment, whatever else. Or when you're pivoting and you're going on offense, you're going all in, buddy, right? Like, you generate a lot of plus frames, you have a lot of counter hit launchers, and you have a lot of good pressure tools. The moment the opponent is showing like a sign of they're going to be on the back foot a little bit and they're going to let you run offense, you want to cash out as hard as you can. And I think you do more with building up to a counter hit launcher as opposed to just pressing the counter hit launcher, accepting that your turn is over, and then moving back, right? What do I mean by that? So right here, right, poke, don't just press that, right? Be a little bit greedier. Hatchet kick, back one, another jab into a throw, right? Stuff like that. Force more out of him. I think you can do a little bit more to kind of put more pressure on him. And then, because right now I guess the rhythm of the offense is what I'm trying to say. It's not inducing him to attacking. Inducing, is that a word? It's not incentivizing him to attack, right? He's just gonna wait, and then he knows that you'll just press like a big counter hit button, and then he can kind of like your turn's over, and he can kind of maybe play, right? So if he's just stand blocking, start hatchet kicking him, start doing back one, put on like more and more pressure, right? So be a bit more greedy with your turn before just ending it. Nice. I don't know what you hit, but nice. That's fine. It was just trying to capitalize off a combo. Nice. Wow, that tracks really far. That's crazy. Yeah, I guess this is where Maybe I should just do Discord calls with people. Be like, hey, do you have time to like talk about this? That's probably what I should do or something. I don't know. Okay, so wait, did I miss it? Did I rewind too far? Okay, right here. So your forward three hits, you are now +4, and then you do forward 4 again. Why? Right? What was the reasoning? Did you expect him to really try and move at like -4 against a character with pretty crazy tracking and homing moves? At this range at least, right? Like at this range, Bryan is pretty good at locking down opponents and whatnot. This is what I'm talking about, where I feel like you can stand to be a bit greedier. When you have frame advantage in these situations, if hatchet kick lands, if you get back one blocked, if you get forward three hit, right? You know, do a little bit more, be a little bit greedier, and make Max go, hey, I just can't let him get away with this, right? So if you do forward three into hatchet, into back one, into you do, I think you did down forward two earlier, which is fine. But I also think you should be doing stuff like throwing him, right? Stuff that will take advantage and try to put more pressure on Max than just let me do counter hit launcher / lockdown move and then end my turn again. It doesn't have to be a poke. I don't think you need to poke more in those situations. I think just like it's like, yes, the counter hit launcher will always be a good option no matter what. You have the frame advantage. Max is very aggressive and will probably mash into it, right? It's a likely scenario. But in a lot of situations, you've conditioned him a lot to kind of maybe stagger his offense a bit more, and instead of immediately retaliating when something gets blocked, wait a little bit, right? So in those situations, go for, when you get plus frames, go for more pressure, right? More pressure, pushing him to the wall, throwing him, power move like a low, like back one or power low and back one, power low such as hatchet, or power move such as back one, and then really apply that pressure, right? Make him go, oh, I can't just wait, I have to go back into my immediate timing. And then when he goes into his immediate timing, that's when your counter hit launchers will be more effective, right? It's fine. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, this whole sequence is exactly what I'm talking about. Because Max has been kind of conditioned and beaten down a little bit, where he's not going to immediately press and start challenging. You have this free reign to just start whacking him, and then he gets frustrated. Exactly like that sequence, right? You made a gambit of like, okay, I've pressed hatchet kick enough times, he's going to retaliate after this one most likely, and did down forward two. Pretty safe. It didn't work out, it got blocked, but it's fine, right? That's what I'm trying to talk about, of like that sequence, but more, right? Obviously, don't just do triple hatchet back to back to back every single time. But I feel like in a lot of the sequences in your matches, you can gain more. You can gain more pressure, right? That's what I'm talking about with the whiff punishment. Like I know down back three is kind of fast, but I feel like you could have whiff punished a bit more, or just press 3+4. But anyway, it worked out. It's fine. Ooh, it's nighttime. Yeah, Brian's 1-2 jab strings are pretty good. Okay, so that was it. All right, neutral, punishment / matchup knowledge, combo / okay, personal opinion. Neutral. I thought your neutral was solid. It wasn't. There were no like glaring errors. There were no issues. In the later sets, maybe playing with your food a little bit too much. I don't know what your game plan was there. I think you could do more with poking, but that's really like, it's whatever. It's not it's not non-existent, but I feel like you're kind of a little too overcommitting and going for counter hit launchers when you don't need to. And I think you could be doing more to set up your counter hit launchers. But there's nothing like in neutral that I'm like outrageous. How could this happen? Punishment slash matchup knowledge. Nothing that I saw that was like too crazy. I feel like matchup knowledge, not necessarily character versus character, but more so player versus player. I think your solid play has done a lot to condition Max, but your play isn't changing, right? And it's not a bad thing, right? It's like you won the set, right? And Max isn't doing enough to take advantage of your kind of stable play, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Max isn't doing a lot to force you to adapt. Fine. But I think you can just change up your playstyle a bit more to maximize the conditioning you've been putting Max through. The key sequence being that triple hatchet that we saw, right? Be more on the lookout for the shift in a player's style where you can get away with being a lot more greedy, right? You know, Bryan's just he's either like this iron wall or he's just this overwhelming torrent of offense, right? I don't think, when I think of overwhelming torrent of offense, I don't think Bryan pressing a counter hit launcher, it didn't counter hit, okay, end my turn, return to neutral. I think, holy fuck, he pressed back one, he pressed hatchet kick, I tried to challenge it, I got counter hit with the jab or something, right? Stuff like that. So look for opportunities where you can stand to be a bit more greedy, and that'll put more pressure on your opponent, which means they're more likely to retaliate, which means your counter hit, you can go back to your counter hit launchers after a little bit of build up. Combo slash Oki, I thought combos are fine. I didn't notice anything. Again, I don't play Bryan, so I don't have any comment there. With Oki, I think like taunt Oki is whatever. It's Bryan, right? Go for the taunt whenever. But when also consider Oki as in stage positioning and how to maintain a more dominant position throughout the set, right? Is it the end of the world if you let your opponent escape the wall? No. However, I think it will put you in a better position the more often your opponent's back is to the wall, right? And you want to make them work their way out of the wall. Don't just let them get out for free. And sometimes that means you're going to be sacrificing running them down and getting like an extra hit on the wall combo. But that's fine because you have a more dominant position. And in case you get counter hit or something, or you make a mistake or fuck up, think of it as also giving yourself more leg room to work with, right? Even if your back, isn't entirely to the wall, even if you're like, let's say, like a sidewall position, right? Let me see if I can find exactly what I'm talking about. So like, let's say like your back was closer to the wall but not fully aligned. It's not great, but it's not terrible, right? But it's still, again, it's about maximizing your advantage as much as you can throughout the match, right? Having your back away from the wall and your opponent closer to it means even if they get a momentum shift, even if they get an opportunity, like they get you in a combo, they take you out of the wall, right? You're fine because your back wasn't to the wall. It'll reset to neutral, back in the open ground. Hopefully you'll still have, you're not dying from whatever they won with, and you'll have a bit more room to work with still, right? So either way, it just keeps you in a better position. That's the main goal. Personal opinion stuff. I talked a bit about like, hey, poke a little bit more. I think you need to utilize the jabs, the down back 3, down 4 a lot more, and really, really pressure Max into forcing a mistake out of him, right? I don't think currently he's really feeling the pressure. He just kind of tries to huddle up and tries to like just not overcommit, right? But that's the thing. You want to crush his hope. You want to make him feel like he has to lash out and overcommit to something, and then when he does, you're ready with like the whiff punch or counter hit launcher. I think you can also throw a lot more than you are currently doing. I'm pretty sure Bryan has a full throw game, right? If you get quick, easy plus frames, just cash out with a throw, right? It's another thing. It's all about the mental stack, right? You're not a full on grappler. I get it. You're not a king. You're not armor king. You're not law with a launching throw or whatever. But the main point of it is it's another tool that your opponent has to be aware of and keep track of and suddenly have to worry about, because now they have to go, fuck, if he gets some plus frames, is he going to throw me and then beat out my jab retaliation, right? Because think of it this way: if you get plus frames, you go for a throw, the fastest thing that they'll have, or if you go for plus frames, if forward 3 lands and you have +4 and you want to go for a big move like a hatchet kick or back 1, a jab will still beat you, right? Because +4 isn't exactly enough to make those moves unbeatable. But if you throw the person, and yeah, you could also just jab them, but I think throws are a little bit more reward. If you throw them, right, it beats their jab, it beats everything that they can do in terms of speed, at least in this matchup, right? It's not like he's not like Bryan has Yoshi Flash or anything. And it forces them to either move or duck, right? And both of those, you just press whatever the homing mid that he has is 1+2, right? Basically, you force your opponent into more awkward spots, and more important, and you tax their mental energy, right? The more things they have to keep track of in the match, the more tired and less and more energy they'll use up, right? You'll see the cracks in their armor faster with the more stuff you throw at them. There's not much else that I really have to say. I don't think anything was like glaring, but anyway. That's it for me. Like I said before, all of this is just me rambling about, hey, this is what I see, this is what I think you can do a little bit more with. It's not gospel by any means. It's just a Tekken nerd rambling. If anything didn't make sense, feel free to ask questions in the Discord. Let me know, hey, this point made no sense to me. What did you mean by this, etc., etc., etc. Any other feedback or whatever else. If this helped in any way, I'm happy. If it didn't, I am sad. But let me know, what can be done to improve, or if there are any questions you guys have. All right, have a good one.